In object-oriented programming, there are three main concepts. The first concept we are going to discuss is inheritance. Inheritance allows you to create classes that inherit certain aspects from another class. This allows you to reuse code and extend and modify the behavior that is defined in other classes. Let's create a new project and give it the name inheritance. And let's add a class. And give it the name auto. Here we have our auto class, which is our base class, and we are going to type some code that will be available to other classes. So let's think about things automobiles have in common. Automobiles have a make, so I'm going to create a public string called make. And you typically don't want to make your fields public, but in this case we will, because we want our other classes, which are known as derived classes, to be able to access these fields. Automobiles also have a model, so let's create a public string for model. And automobiles have a year, so I'm going to create a public string for year. I want my derived classes to be able to print the make, model, and year of their vehicles, so I'm going to create a print method. So I'm going to type public void, because I'm not going to return a value, and I'm going to type print. Then I'm going to include my two curly braces, and I'm going to type out console.writeLine and my quotes make colon plus make. And then I'm going to include another console.writeLine, this time for the model. And I'm going to type model. Let me include a space there. Plus model. And let me include a space here as well. And then I'm going to type my final console.writeLine, and that's for the year. Oops, just type that there. Now I'm going to add another class. And I'm going to give it the name truck. My truck class is a derived class, and I want to be able to use the fields and methods of the auto class, which is my base class. In order to gain access to my auto class, I need to include a colon after my truck class. Then I have to write the name of my base class, which is auto. When I think about a truck, two things stand out for me. One thing is its torque. So I'm going to create a public field. So let me type public. I'm going to make it of type int. And I'm going to name it torque. The other thing about a truck that stands out to me is its towing capacity. So I'm going to create a second public field. It's also going to be of type int, and I'm going to name it towing capacity. Next, I'm going to create a method that will return the torque. So I'm going to type public int and give it the name getTorque. And I'm going to include my curly braces. And in my code block, I'm going to return torque. Then I'm going to create a second method for my engine. So I'm going to type public. Then I'm going to type void because I do not want to return a value. And I'm going to name it engine. Let me include my curly braces. I want my engine method to print something out, so I'm going to type console.writeLine, and in the parentheses I'm going to type, this is a powerful engine. Now I'm going to add another class, and I'm going to give it the name car. And when I think about a car, I think about its speed, so I'm going to create a speed field. So I'm going to type public int speed. Another thing that comes to mind when I think about a car is its transmission. So I'm going to add a transmission field. So I'm going to type public. This time I'm going to use the string type. And I'm going to name it transmission. And I'm going to add a method called acceleration. So I'm going to type public again, void, because I will not be returning a value, and acceleration. And I'm going to print out console.writeLine, or rather I'm going to add console.writeLine so I could print something to the console window. I want to print my car accelerates at 0 to 60 in 5.8 seconds. And when I look at this derived class, I notice something. I notice that I forgot to add the colon and auto after my car class. Now I'm going to go to program.ts. The first thing I want to do is instantiate my truck class. So I'm going to type truck, my truck equals new truck. Then I'm going to assign some values to my truck. So I'm going to type my truck dot, and when I type dot, notice all of my options. Within my options, you can see that I can choose the make, model, and the year. I am able to do that because of inheritance. So let me assign some values to my fields. So I'm going to start with make. I'm going to choose that option, and I'm going to assign it a value of Chevy. Then I'm going to go down. I'm going to choose my truck again. This time I want to choose the model field, and I'm going to assign it a value of Silverado. Then I go down again, my truck. This time I'm going to select the year field and assign it a value of, oops, this is not a string, so I need to get those quotes out of there. But I'm going to assign it a value of 2015. Then I'm going to continue and I'm going to type. And before I continue with my truck, I notice I have a red squiggly line here underneath 2015. It says cannot implicitly convert type int to string. So what happened here is actually in my auto class, I have the year listed as a string, and that's incorrect. So I have to make the change here. So make sure if you're typing along with me, you change string to int, okay? Because an integer is a whole number. It's not going to be a string. So now when I go back to program.cs, the red squiggly line has disappeared. So let me continue typing, and I'm going to type my truck. This time I'm going to choose the torque, and I'm going to assign it a value of 925. And I'm going to continue my truck. This time I'm going to work with towing capacity, and I'm going to assign that a value of 21,000. One important thing to know is that if you put a comma here, like you normally would write 21,000, you're actually going to get an error, okay? And if you put your mouse over it, it says only assignment, call, increment, decrement, and new object expressions can be used as a statement. Basically, the problem is that you put that comma, okay? C# doesn't like commas, so you cannot include a comma when you're writing a number like this, like 21,000, okay? So just keep that in mind as you code in the future. I also want to use the print method from my auto class so I can print out the make, model, and year of my truck. So I'm going to add my truck, and I'm going to choose the print method, which appears in my auto class. And I want to print out the engine method from my truck class, so I'm going to type my truck, and then I'm going to search for engine. Here we go. And I'm going to include my semicolon here at the end. Then I'm going to include a console.writeLine for my torque. And I need to include my truck and torque here at the end so I can actually print out my torque. And I'm also going to include a console.writeLine for my towing capacity, okay? So let me just go to console.writeLine. And include my truck and choose towing capacity. And let me include my console.readLine here at the end so that my program stays open. And let me run this program now. If you look at my console window, you see that I printed out the make, model, and year of my truck. And you know they came from my base class auto. Then you see that I printed out the engine method for my truck class. That's why it says this is a powerful engine right here. Then you see that I used a console.writeLine, which I typed into program.cs to print out the torque and the towing capacity from my truck class. So let me close out of this, and now I want to access my car class. So the first thing I need to do is instantiate my car class. So I'm going to type car, my car equals new car. Then I'm going to assign it a make. So I'm going to type my car. Oops. My car. Dot, and let me find the make, and I'm going to assign it a value of Nissan. Then I'm going to continue. This time I'm going to type my car, and I'm going to look for the model, and I'm going to assign it a value of Ultima. Then my car, and this time what I want to do is access the year and assign it a value of 2016. I want to print the make, model, and year, so I need to assign it the print method from my auto class. So I'm going to type right down here, my car dot print. I'm looking for the print method. Here it goes. And then include my semicolon. Next, I'm going to assign the speed from my car class a value of 90. So I'm going to type my car, then speed, and I'm going to make it equal to 90. And the transmission is going to be manual, so I'm going to type my car dot transmission, and it's going to be equal to manual. And I'm going to include a couple of console.write lines to print out my speed and transmission. And one more console.write line. And there we go. And let me run this program. And here you see I printed out the make, model, and year of my car class. And like with the truck class, we were able to borrow this code from the auto class. We just assigned the make, model, and year a value. And I used the two console.write lines that I typed into program.cs to print out both my speed and transmission type. In this video, you learned about inheritance. You learned that inheritance allows you to reuse code. During this lesson, you reuse the code from your base class auto to print out the make, model, and year of both your truck and auto classes. Without inheritance, you would have had to type or copy and paste the make, model, and year into both the truck and car classes. So by reusing or inheriting code, you were able to minimize the code you needed for your application. Also, remember that your base class makes code available to your other classes that are known as derived classes. And another thing I want you to be aware of is that the base class is sometimes referred to as the parent class, and derived classes are sometimes called child classes.